Hi, friends. It's Help Me Be Me, and this is an episode I'm calling Easy Does It. It's for collecting self in times of overwhelm. If you are in California, you are aware that there are many, many fires happening right now. If you're anywhere in the world, you're probably aware of that. I am in California, and I grew up in the Palisades, which has been decimated by wildfires. And this is an episode I wrote in response to that because it's something that's still ongoing, it's still active. A lot of loved ones still uh, going through a lot of stress over the risk of losing more. And I started this episode as something completely different, and now it's evolved into something that's really about nurturing and licking wounds. And I will say, as a creator, it's very hard to put something out there right now because everything feels like not enough. Everything feels a little trite. But as with all of my episodes, excuse me, as with all my episodes, I have the same caveat, which is take what helps and leave the rest. Because as a self helper, you got to help. That's what you do. You got to try something. So, this is an episode that's for times of stress or overwhelm of any kind. I think what is most challenging about moving through a state of disaster in your life is our lack of ability to think. When we have so much information that we're trying to ingest so quickly and we're already in that dysregulated state, it's like, trying to sculpt with oven mitts on. It's like, it just feels like you're a blunt object. It's very hard. And when you are suffering any kind of loss in your life, it's often um, a state of dysregulation for in waves for a long period of time. And so everything will feel kind of wrong. Everything will feel trite or irritating. Other people's responses often feel insensitive or not right. You might feel, in response to that state, very internal and not want contact. You also might feel the opposite. You might feel extra needy or crave connection to others who are going through what you're going through. So, net net, if you are going through any disaster in your life right now, any overwhelm, um, invite acceptance in yourself for all of the range of feelings and do not blame yourself for any of them, even if sometimes they feel petty or you feel like guilty. Right now, first things first, easy does it. Throwing out all of my favorite Alanon slogans. Also, if you are a person who is on the other side of it and you're witnessing other people in your life go through very stressful states, I know it can be painful to not be able to help. It can be painful to be in that state of powerlessness. Feels like everything you do is not enough, like you are not enough. And there is something that Esther Perel refers to as the vulnerability sequence. She talks about in the context of committed relationships. And it's that sequence of responses that get a lot of couples feeling really distant from one another, which is one person makes a bid for connection, reaches out for love and connection. And then the other person's response to them feels like rejection or is not what they wanted. And then that makes that person kind of shut down and feel hurt. And then that response makes the partner feel equally hurt and shut down or lonely or unseen. So it's kind of like this, like, you know, pain game of tennis where it's like, I have a response that makes you feel a response, which makes me have a response, which makes the other person have a response. Net net, I think everyone has a vulnerability sequence in all of their relationships, including casual relationships and friendships. And if you are trying really hard to be sensitive and you're trying to really reach out to other people, it can feel very scary and vulnerable to do so. And then on the receiving end, you're probably going through a lot of mixed emotions and vulnerability. So it can make a lot of people that mean very well grow afraid to do anything. It can make you afraid to reach out to another person. And if you are feeling overly afraid right now to reach out to somebody, or you're feeling overly sensitive about misstepping with someone, I want to encourage you to reach out anyway, despite that. Override that fear right now in service of touching someone's heart with love at a time when that is most healing and comforting. Like, let go of if it's right or perfect and just reach out to someone. Maybe they're affected, maybe they're just lonely, maybe they could use some love. Everyone could use some love. Just say, I'm thinking of you. Can I help you? And if you don't know anyone that's affected by disaster of any kind, I encourage you to visit GoFundMe and donate to people you don't know. I'm talking like $5. It's a great way to make today a little more positive and loving for everyone. And so, with that, this is what I'm calling a path back to feeling grounded and safe in self. If you are suffering right now from the loss of your home, or from the loss of a partner, or from the loss of something else, if you're suffering from old loss, it's a perfect time to use the slogan "Easy does it." And that is a great Alanon slogan. It means a lot of different things at different times. And I would say it's a slogan that is a reminder that we can only take on as much as we can handle. And sometimes the best thing we can do is slow down and take some of the immediacy off of ourselves so we can return to a situation with more clarity, with more resource. And I think a lot of the time when we are in a desperate, dire energy, we get into that habit of forcing. We are using blunt force. We're trying to force solutions fast. And when we're in that state, we may not be able to solve every problem, and we may not be able to solve it in the time we wish we could solve it. And a lot of the problems we're trying to solve are not for us to solve, even if we wish we could. Um, which brings me to the why in this episode. It's really easy to double down on force when you're overwhelmed because your biology is flailing for grounding and control. If you are not in an immediate state of emergency, like if you're not in danger and needing to flee, then I think anytime you are noticing yourself trying to control, uh, grasping for control, it's a sign you need to step back and ground. And by that, I mean really simple things like breathing deeply, anything you can do to slow your heart rate, um, anything you can do to change your physiology, like temperature changes can kind of get you out of the spiral of thinking. Additionally, if you are a person who is perfectionistic, or you grew up very young, like you had to be kind of a tiny adult. I think times of overwhelm, um, especially for us, mean we are taken offline. And we get into that energy really quickly of rushing, yelling. It's like you're in a functional state of heightened panic. And that means it can go on for longer than is healthy. So if you are defending against that feeling of powerlessness, Easy Does It is a reminder that we have to be gentle with ourselves. It's a little flag that's saying, I got to slow down, I got to be kind, and I got to be gentle. It's very easy to feel impatient with life and with our progress in life and with others in our life. And especially when we're in pain, especially when we're in a state of discomfort. And I often ask my kids when they're in that state of tantrum, is that helpful or is that hurtful? Are you helping? Are you hurting? Are you being nice or mean? And sometimes it's that simple. We got to come back and just to the intention of being nice to ourselves. When we are struggling with a lack of control, we often act out against ourselves, against ourselves and others. So the first thing I want to ask, if you're feeling like you're forcing things, if you're feeling like you're being mean internally, um, come back and ask, can I be a little bit more gentle? Can I be a little bit more kind? Can I take a deep breath? Because your body, when it's calm, can just move through things as it's able. So it's able to take in things. And for me, easy does it is just a sign I need to take a little extra time in order to do things right because there's a lot of information to process and that information is kind of flooding in. So if you are a person who is high functioning with a history of trauma, I will also remind you that the hardest thing for you to do is ask for help. Slow down enough to ask for help and really take the help when you need it because it feels dangerous to our nervous system. It feels like falling backwards. That pain of opening up, of exposing yourself to others, it feels like we might lose control. It feels like we might break. We might cry, we might fall apart and not be able to get back up again. It's that slipping into, I can't control what's going to flood out of me. That feels like we shouldn't do it. We should just keep going, keep muscling. And it's that slipping into the mourning or the sadness that feels dangerous and feels too close to home. But I want to pause and ask you if that is resonating at all for you right now in your life. Are you asking for enough help from those around you? Are you asking those around you to show up for you in the ways that could really, really help right now? Because when another person is allowed to help you, it is such a great compliment. It makes them feel so good, so worthy. It means I am close to you. You are my equal. You are my kin. We are intimate. It feels sensitive at times. It feels uncomfortable at times, but it is a gift to both people. It is not an imposition, it is a gift. When we experience anxiety and fear, a lot of the time your brain's just offline. Your amygdala hijacks the brain, and that is when your brain becomes not capable of accessing the more intelligent, reflective, more planning centric parts of the brain, future planning parts of the brain. And therefore, by default, know that you are short sighted and you are threat focused. And it will tell your body dire things. It will tell you danger, doom and gloom. So just be aware if you're overstimulated by anxiety right now, that anxiety is outweighing the more logical parts of your brain. And that is just a sign. If I'm dooming and glooming, I got to calm my body. That's first things first. I got to calm my body. So if you are a person who is trying to work while you're being distracted by fires, if you are a person who has to fill out lots of paperwork, if you are a person who is trying to um, function in like a resourceful way, you might feel foggy, you might feel confused, you might feel disoriented. If this is happening, first, just forgive yourself and take pause and know that you will get there. It's just important to be easy does it, really gentle with yourself. That is the beginning of the path to clarity, is just recognizing what's happening. Gentle, loving, kindness, and patience. You will get there when you need to. Take a breather, soothe, and then continue on. Okay, and now I have a tools section. This tool section is a lot of similar type of stuff, but hopefully something in here will help you. Before I do that, a brief word from our sponsors. All right, the tools section. Take what helps, leave the rest. All right, first tool, acts of agency, a gratitude list. If you are not able to do much and you are not grateful for actual things that have happened recently, I think one way to do a gratitude list and just remind yourself of to have a positive bias is to focus on the things that you have ability around, um, to make things happen in your life and be active. So, a gratitude list around agency. I'm grateful for the power in my body. I'm grateful for my ability to be active. I'm grateful for all that I can make real with my person. I'm grateful for my ability to draw beautiful things. This is just an invitation to journal around things that are essential to who you are in your humanity that will never go away. All right, the next tool, behold the fog. I have already touched on this, but I think noticing the signs of dysregulation and when your brain is offline is really the core of being able to move through life in like a measured way. It's just like realizing like, oh, I'm getting into that. I'm noticing I'm rushing. I'm noticing I'm trying to force things. I'm noticing I'm in my high zone. People respond to threat in different ways. You either go high or you go low. High zone is like feeling emotionally erratic, you're rushing, your brain is not linear, your heart's pounding, your thoughts are dooming and glooming. You might feel like fearful, all of those kind of heightened state things. For other people, they go into the opposite. They go into a low zone where they have zero energy. That you feel listless, you feel tired, you feel spaced out, you feel slow, you feel exhausted. You might have myopia and just thoughts of hopelessness, thought like the dooming and glooming, but like opposite energetic state. If you get into either of those states, first things first, you notice it, recognize it. Oh, I'm feeling really out of it. And next step is grounding exercise, giving yourself grace, but grounding exercises. And they are super simple, you know, primal types of things like um, temperature based changes, being outside in nature, breathing exercises, meditation exercises, moving things in your body. I like to do cold showers if I'm in like the high zone just because it stops the line of thinking. Hot bath, things to do with pressure are really good. Putting pressure on different parts of your body are really good for some people. Drinking cold water, simple one. And anything that I haven't thrown out there, if you know yourself well, this is when we pull out our 911 list and we do one of those things. Grace is the name of the game. All right, the next tool, anguish wants an exit. When we are overcome by feelings of powerlessness, it is healing just to be in motion, to give our energy an exit and demonstrate a sense of agency. So for me at home in the last week, that has been cleaning nonstop. Just like animals, like when you have anxious energy built up in your body, we have to get it out. We have to put it somewhere. So if you are feeling anguish, give it an exit point. And I'm going to say any moving meditation that activates a sense of agency, that you feel like you can create positive change in the world, this can be a way to soothe and not let that the trauma of the powerlessness stay stuck in your body. I think some of the most traumatizing experiences are ones when we were powerless and we could not move our body to help ourselves. So if you are feeling like a buildup in yourself, be in motion. Give your helplessness a target. Anything constructive. It can be actually helping people. It can be helping things in your immediate space. It could be cleaning. Anything. Just making anything better. All right, the next tool, gather your altar, build sanctuary. Um, these are two just journaling prompts for you. I also invite you, if you are in a place that is not your home, one way to create a felt sense of home is to build a small altar or area with like a collection of objects that feel somewhat personal and or beautiful, like a little menagerie of solace. If you are in a corner or a safe space, it's like just even arranging one or two things that feel pretty to you, that feel personal to you, can be healing. All right, the journal prompts, you can do this in your phone if you have a phone. First list is I am safe. This is an exercise to do if you find that your brain is going out of the rational and just into the emotional and you can't stop. Write a list to ground yourself of rational facts about your safety and your environment and reality. I am in a room. I am physically healthy. I am warm. I have a toothbrush. My children are here. I have shoes. Whatever the things are, noticing things in the environment. This is just a way to like rebalance the hemispheres of the brain and get yourself a little bit more balanced. This is a Marshall Linehan DBT tool I love. I've used a bajillion times in my life, but it's just a helpful way to get you back online. Second list. This is a journal exercise that I think is a just a way to recognize what is good around us and notice that we are all way more connected to one another's humanity via hardship. It's kind of like we're in that portal of life and death, like when a baby is born. And it's like in those moments, there is this beauty of connection that is unparalleled when we're outside of it. It's a profound feeling. That is what I want you to channel in the second journal prompt, which is all that I have. And if that feels triggering, if that feels like I don't want to do that, that's not helpful, ignore it. But often in times of hardship, we notice all the love that we have, all of the people in our lives, all of the connection we have to strangers. So if this feels right for you, journal on that. I have so much love from my community. I have loved ones who've reached out to me. I have friends who are thinking of me. I have my family members with me. I've all this time I'm getting to spend with these people, etc. All right, the next tool I'm calling gift loss space. And this is a journal entry if you are feeling overcome today. Um, in moments when something bad has happened, it's really conflicting to have. Sometimes we have opposite feelings, really, really strong opposite feelings, and we might feel bad about some of the feelings we have. There can be mourning, but there can also be gratitude. It's like that survivor's guilt in a different shape or form. It's like you can feel really bad for what you have. This is just a gentle reminder that all all these feelings are okay. You can have all of these things, you can contain all of these feelings and more. So, if you are feeling overcome, I invite you to make space for yourself in your journal. Write all the conflicting powerful emotions. I'm grateful to have a home. I'm so sad for so many who have lost their home. I'm grateful to have a job. I'm struggling to focus on that job while so much uncertainty is currently happening, etc. Just that dump of feeling. A related tool, feelings are healings. Sound like a camp counselor, don't I? When we move through waves of feeling, I think a lot of the time we tell ourselves that some of those feelings are not healthy. We push them down or we can feel conflicted. Like, I can't feel that right now. I can't open that right now. And I just want to remind you that a lot of the time, um, feelings are helpful because they're telling us something needs to happen. And I just wanted to offer this to you because I found it helpful when I was in a really, really bad spot, just emotionally dysregulated, really, really overwhelmed by those emotions. I was so resistant to feeling them because it felt scary. I felt like I'm going to, they're going to destroy me. I'm going to fall apart and I'm not going to be able to put myself back together. My therapist at the time said, go ahead, do it, fall apart, let it all out. And then get up, put yourself back together, get a Kleenex, and keep going. It's okay to fall apart sometimes. It's okay to be a mess sometimes. And if you are holding things in, know that that's not necessarily good for you. I mean, resistance is not soothing. It can also make us feel even more dysregulated or more, it's like a pot. I use the metaphor of a pot that's boiling. It's like it just gets full. And sometimes it's just really helpful to just have that release. Okay. The next tools are more for if you are not in a state of emergency coping. And these were tools I was going to have in the the other episode I was going to do today, but I'm keeping them in here in case it's helpful to anyone who is safe and just dealing with a lot of trigger right now or emotional overwhelm. First tool is called the old selves. I think stressful times are especially triggering for a lot of people with trauma. And as you move through difficult times, if you are living in a place of trigger, it'll be a self that comes out that had an experience of powerlessness at a different time in your life. And different ages have different kinds of powerlessness where we felt we needed to activate our own power. And so if you are noticing yourself acting in a way that is extreme or agitated, anxious, fearful, um, forcing things, grasping at things, muscling things, that's a little, an old self that's coming out. It's a little warning sign. That is an invitation to be curious and check in. And just, I like to think of all of these old selves as marked at a certain time. I always ask, what is this feeling? What time is this feeling from? What age is this feeling from? Often our youngest feelings are more heightened, they're bigger, they're more blunt because they are paused at the age when we felt that way. So that's usually a way to trace when that self is from. Oh, this feels a little bit like my teenage self. This feels a little bit like my 15-year-old self because I was going through this thing at that time and I had no power, I had no control. I was really freaked out. Whatever it is, even if it doesn't feel exactly right, if you can trace like a vague association with a current feeling and an old experience, let's just let it be true for right now as you do this reflection. And then ask what that self is struggling for. Why has that self come out today? What are they struggling for in today right now? A second related tool, second half of this, is called splitting moments. In the moments that we have split from ourselves, it's whenever we've acted out of a place of desperation. It's a feeling of like, I'm not proud of that. I don't feel good about what I said. I don't feel like that fits who I want to be. For me, it's often like I'm yelling at my kids. I'm like, I didn't like doing that. I didn't feel right when I did that. I don't feel like proud of that self. That's a moment I would write down in this journal exercise as a moment I split from myself. And and all of these are demonstrating a misalignment between who you are, who you choose to be, and something that's occurring in your body, something that's a response in your body that's not you. So that's a map. They don't match. That's a sign that something in you needs to be investigated with compassion and curiosity. It's not a time to feel like, fuck, I'm an asshole. I hate me. That's not helpful. So, first thing is to act with curiosity and investigate. So, write down the moment. I yelled at my kid. That didn't feel right to me. And then investigate, what was that self trying to do? What was that self trying to defend against? There was a moment that I felt frustrated. I felt powerless. I felt angry that this thing wasn't happening. It was a fear, feeling of fear. What age did that feel like? Did I feel close to 15 again? Was it that kind of energy? Or was it a more 20 something fear? Whatever it is, we're just like becoming little investigators, little detectives. And if this isn't working at this point in time, I like to write down the splitting moment and then take a break from it, come back to it a few days later, and then relook at it. And don't try and measure it. Don't try and rationalize how bad it is. I feel like there's like this like desire to put it in order and say like maybe it wasn't so bad and maybe I don't have to feel bad about it. It's not about that. This is really about recognizing there's some insight buried inside of this thing. There's some insight that's like deep within it that will dawn on you like a light bulb turning on in a profound way. That is the gift that this thing bears. And if we can't go through that investigative process, it will fester because we will rationalize it, let's say, we'll push it down, we'll feel really shitty about it, and then we'll just continue to do it. That's the part that happens if we can't really just like dive in deep to it, welcome all that it wants to tell us. So, when you are able to come back to that thing and you think about that moment that you split from your adult self, what was the thing we were desperate to achieve? What was the thing we were afraid of having happen? What did our inner self crave in that moment? And in that insight, you might find, oh, I got put on the back foot. I got triggered. I fell back because I was overwhelmed. Once we can recognize, I had a fear of not being in control. I had a 15-year-old's fear of not being in control. When you can see that little insight, we can ask ourselves, how can I help myself not be desperate? How can I support myself to avoid that being on the back foot state the next time it occurs? It's often when we have put ourselves in a position of compromise that we get into that state. And and that compromise might be a result of just the facts, the literal facts of your life. But I think one thing that is really healing about this, just this investigative process, is when you can recognize, oh, I need help. I actually need help because I get into a place where I cannot function the way I want to. It's like all of a sudden we have this ability to feel compassion for ourselves through a process that otherwise we were completely unconscious through the entirety of it, if that makes sense. So it's a very therapeutic process of insight because the next time it occurs, we are now conscious throughout the beginning and then now the middle stage. Instead of just reacting, we can see like, I'm actually in that stage of desperation. I'm getting into my stage of desperation and trigger. I need help. I need to step back and help myself. It gives you an opportunity for agency in that zone where actual change can possibly occur. Um, I like to call this process frame fucking because it's like we're slowing something down and we're seeing frame by frame what's happening in things that feel blind and confusing and overwhelming to us otherwise. Um, so I hope that is helpful. And I think it's really, really easy to get unconscious and just blame ourselves for it, especially in times when we are overwhelmed. In closing, times of loss gift us with connection to others, a deeper connection to loved ones and strangers. I recognize in myself just how quickly the less important problems, quote unquote, shrink. So it's this very rare window of time when you can really see how what's important and how trivial most problems are. I wanted to throw out if you have anyone in your life that could use some love and kindness, reach out, accept the vulnerability and reach out, send love. Helping strangers, even simply connecting to others in a kind and open way, it just feels really good. It feels really healing. And that is just another way to remind yourself of your own power and make beauty in this world. Come back to what you have, even if that is simply safety, and ground in those you love. Stay safe, smile, sending love.